Hi, folks. Zach Grant here, just another coronavirus content creator hiding out in the spare bedroom of my house. And I do want to move. Even though I love my house and I planted fruit trees in the backyard when we moved in, and I imagine walking around back there with my grandchildren and picking mulberries and blood oranges and mangoes and sitting on the back steps and laughing with them like I laugh with my own children now. Still, I would do a lot to move right now. I love that dream of sitting on the back steps with my grandkids, but I want to move because of another dream that I have. I imagine sitting out on the steps of the house and I'm looking out at a long row of tables set up in someone's yard, and we're setting up for a big meal. And gathering around that table is my family, my neighbors, my friends with disabilities, their families, and all of these people really kind of fit into all of these categories. Thinking about the future, kids I worked with in St. Augustine who are now adults I work with in Tampa who now have gray hair and are retired, and we share a meal this night, and we walk back to our houses on the same block. Maybe we share meals like this most nights, and from this table things spread out, and it's not just dinners, it's school talent shows, it's weddings and funerals, and we're not just eating together, we're babysitters and we're nurses and we're people to laugh and to mourn with. We're friends and we're family, we're people who do life together. Right now, in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, millions of families are asking a question with like a renewed intensity. Who will love my kid like I do after I'm gone? For many, there isn't really a great answer. My dream is of a community where the answer to that question is found in a community of people who are connected to one another in a long, deep, daily reinforced ways. So how is this a video that will help you do disability ministry? I will say what I want to do in this video and then also what I don't want to do. Here's what I want to do. I think it's important to cast this kind of vision for the thing that I think that we ought to aspire to, because I think that there's a tendency to just settle for programs or events, wonderful, wonderful things that address some urgent need, definitely, but that are incomplete and that we might rest on and never move into the deep, challenging, life-giving waters of what doing this sort of ministry can be. This is my dream, and yours can definitely look different. This isn't the way. It's maybe not even a good way. It's my way of answering a couple questions. The questions that it answers for me is that question that I've heard over and over again, asked in a couple different ways, but in every community that I've dipped my toes in deep enough to matter. What's going to happen to my kid after I'm gone? Who will love them like I will? It answers the question for me, how is the church like a family? That's thrown around a lot, but often the way that we do church doesn't really reflect a very flattering picture of what we think family is. It answers the question for me, how do I do the wonderful and challenging things that the gospel life seems to require and not abandon my family? It's not all up to me, and I don't have to fix every situation or save the world, which is a mantra I probably always have to tell myself. But there is enough stuff that would be good to do and that I would want to do that would keep me out of the house every night of the week. It would be easy to follow the calling I have to Christian ministry in a way that would be in conflict with the irreplaceable calling that I have to be a husband and a father in my family. Is this just the vain expression of my desire to be in two places at once, or is it that much of what we make in ministry into programs and events is as good or better done through natural presence and life together? A presence that involves everything about me, including my family. I don't want to, in this video, suggest that if you don't follow after this dream or some other radical, costly, though probably better conceived dream, that you're not doing the thing to do, that you're not being a good person or a good Christian or whatever. There are so many things that I think ought to be essential parts of our Christian practice that I might not participate in some flagship way. I think every church needs to be about foster care, but do I think every person in a church ought to be a foster parent? Or are there other ways to support that ministry and still consider yourself one of the foster care people at your church? Yes. So I don't want you to be discouraged or frightened and think that there aren't small ways that you can contribute to big dreams. By saying that, I also don't want to provide an out. I want this type of ministry to be demanding and to draw us into wonderful, beautiful, scary, challenging things that we wouldn't have got to any other way, and that we wouldn't have got to at all if God hadn't been with us. Part of doing disability ministry is dreaming big dreams for what our community can be. I want you to put a big dream in front of you for your friends with disabilities, and I want you to make it a dream not just for them, but for you too. Our hopes need to be tied up with each other. It's easy to think separately about what could be wonderful for me and what could be wonderful for some other group and end up separate the way that we are. I want you to have a vision that needs everyone. I think if you have a vision that doesn't need everyone, it's the wrong vision. Or at the very least, it's an incomplete one. I'm a father and I love my kids with a crazy love, but I think that if our love for our family doesn't lead us into a love for those that we wouldn't naturally gravitate towards, it can become something selfish and fearful. If my love doesn't include them, then it can be threatened by them. And boy, if there aren't a million small sacrifices I would make to keep the people I love safe from them, if I allow them rather than us to exist. I want you to have a vision that would require so much of us, a vision that couldn't accommodate a country club type church where we pay our dues and reap the benefits of membership. It would require being the body of Christ, being the church in a way that was so costly to us. I imagine being in a community of people who eats together regularly, takes care of one another socially, medically, financially, and I get a little sick to my stomach, and it freaks my wife out to think that this might be my hope for our life together. Being a husband and a father can be demanding, and adopting those identities really demanded big changes. And I think God's call for us to love and be responsible for one another is one of the main ways that God forms us, being the people that He has created us to be. You don't have to be a parent. You don't have to live in an intentional Christian community like the one I'm drawn to. But you do have to love, commit, and be responsible for people. I hope you do. Here are a couple of pictures of people doing just that I really like. They're not actual pictures. I'll probably put some links in the, whatever the bottom thing is for the video here, comments or what have you. So close to home, there's Noah's Landing, which is an independent living community for people with disabilities. There's L'Arche communities. They have those all over the place internationally. I think the closest one to me here is Jacksonville, Florida. I also really like the North Street community in Raleigh, Durham area. You should check those out. But I'm not moving there. I always think about the story about Mother Teresa, and I can't remember where I first heard it, but she had this beautiful ministry of presence alongside the poor, and in particular the lepers living in these terrible conditions in Calcutta. People were just so drawn to her and her ministry because of the way that she loved. But I'm not sure that this was her, advice in every case, or just her advice in this particular case that I can't remember well, but she said, find your own Calcutta. Bring something beautiful like this in the places in your community where there are holy questions that God is whispering in your ear. Find a dream that starts to answer them. Peace, folks.